Hi, I just got back from the Donmar warehouse. It's the 22nd of February, and I saw BACKSTROKE. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it here, give you my first impressions, little mini review type situation. Not going to go into crazy detail on this one like I have with some of the other shows that I've watched on this channel, but certainly going to give you some high level thoughts because every time I go to the Donmar, I want to talk about it. I love the Donmar as a venue. I say this every time I go there. It's just great. I always have so many good things to say about that venue. So without further ado, let's talk BACKSTROKE. BACKSTROKE features Celia Imrie and Tamsin Greig, and they play a mother-daughter relationship, and it's shown throughout both of their lives. So there are scenes in which the daughter is just sort of a young child. She's 6 years old at one point. There are other scenes where she's in her 50s, and so obviously the mother is however many years older, 20 odd years older. And so you see them both age through the show, but it's not in chronological order. It's told out of order, out of sequence. And I think that the mother-daughter aspect of it, rather than just parent-child, but mother-daughter specifically, is also a really key theme for the show. They're really exploring what it means uniquely to be a mother to a daughter and vice versa, and the challenges and also the joy that can come from that. And I think they also go to some lengths to showcase all of that without the father figure being super present and in the picture. In fact, there is no father on stage, there is no husband, there is no partner, there is no any male figure on stage through the whole show. Like, that is very much something that they completely avoid, and so it's just through the lens of these two women's relationship with one another, right? And I think that the show has some good, and it also does have some bad, in my view. Let's start with the good. I really, really liked Celia Imrie and Tamsin Greig in their performances. I thought their acting was great. I especially liked moments where the daughter is fretting around, and she's clearly picked up so many of her own mother's anxieties and mannerisms and things like that. And you can really see that starting to come out when she gets stressed. And then when she's less stressed, she's a little bit more of the parent, if that makes sense. Like, she's in control. She's kind of taking care of her mother. I mean, she very much is her mother's carer, but she has that grip on things. And then she starts to kind of break a little bit, and you really see her mother kind of coming out of her. And the fact that that was able to be shown through the performance was fantastic. And I think the pair of them, Celia and Tamsin, both did a really good job in that regard. And I think that was probably the high point of the whole production for me. Like, there were certain moments where either it was touching, but not to the point of really getting its emotional talons into me. It never really succeeded in doing that. But certainly some nice touching moments, or some fairly comedic moments. Like, there were moments where I wasn't personally super moved by a joke and sort of finding myself snorting in the audience, but like the woman that was next to me was having a really great time. She was laughing a lot of the jokes, and the general audience was definitely kind of giggling along in places. And so the fact that it managed to achieve that as well, despite being a show that overall was dealing with some pretty difficult themes, was a success for the show, I would say. The difficulty that I have in recommending it, unfortunately, is that if you compare it to something that's really dead set, laser set on just digging into those difficult themes, right? Let's talk like a Next to Normal, for example, right? Next to Normal, obviously, it's different. It's a musical. This isn't a musical by any means, even though there's a little bit of singing, but it's not a musical. But I just want to bring up that example because it's a show that really just gets in there, and it really tries to kind of rummage around in your emotions, basically. Whereas this show didn't seem like it was trying to do that. It was almost more trying to create a tapestry of these emotions and these difficulties and these challenges, but it felt like something that was still separate to me. Like, I wasn't wrapped up in that tapestry myself. I wasn't painted into the picture. It was a little bit more of a distant thing where I was sort of observing a scene and going, oh, yeah, that that. Okay, yeah, sure. But it didn't really feel like I was pulled in the way that I've been pulled in by plenty of other theatre over the years. Like, I just didn't feel like it connected with me. And maybe that's just an element of the fact that I'm a man, I'm not in a mother-daughter relationship. Maybe it's because of the fact that I don't have first-hand experience of knowing anybody with dementia. Like, none of my relatives have had dementia. So it may be that had I had that experience prior to seeing the show, maybe there would have been some element where I would have been like, wow, I'm right in there in the room. That's exactly representative of my experience or whatever. Like, perhaps. But I felt like for having not had that experience in my life, I felt a little disconnected from the material. And I think part of what the cause of that was that it didn't feel like it really gave me something to stew on after the fact, I guess. Like, it was nice. It was nice to be in the theater and watching strong acting performances from this duo and from everybody else on stage. But I just didn't really feel like I was chewing on anything when the lights went down at the end. It felt like I was just sort of there to see something and then that thing was over. And I like being left with stuff when I leave a theater. I like being I don't know, prompted or provoked or something, just given some gristle to chew on to carry home with me. And I didn't feel like this show really gave me that in the same way. So it was an enjoyable time to be there, but would I sort of recommend it as like, oh, that's especially worth seeing against the backdrop of all the other things that are in the West End right now, for example? I would struggle to say that this is the one that you should pick. So is that the script's fault? Maybe. I don't think there was any sort of specific direction choice that really let the show down. I thought that the direction was kind of fine. It wasn't particularly stunning, I would say. The way that it was staged was just kind of how it was staged, and I was never blown away by any means. But it was fine. I wouldn't say that there were any real problems with the way it was staged at all. It was just that it didn't really speak to me. But not every single show is going to be for everybody, right? So maybe it will do so for you. And if you do go and see it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether you felt like it really resonated with you and connected with you and pulled you in that way, or whether you feel similarly to me, where there was just a little bit of distance there, and it didn't quite manage to pluck you out of your seat and put you into the show, right? So let me know what your experience is if you do go and see it. If I had to give it a number rating, it's a little tricky. It's going to sound really harsh, I think. I'd probably give it 2 stars. It's not a 1 star. I think 1 star is sort of reserved for stuff that I just think is objectively bad theatre. And I don't think this was bad theatre. I just didn't really feel that connection, like I've said. So I'm going to go with 2 stars as my sort of best guess rating for this one. But it's a loose one because I think that perhaps the show just wasn't for me, and that need not be a blight on its name. That need not be why I sort of give it a low rating. It might just be that it's better suited for other people. So that's my result, or that's my review, or that's my first impressions at least. Let's stick with first impressions. Those are my first impressions of Backstroke. Let me know what you think if you do see it, and I will talk to you soon as I see some more theatre. Bye for now.